After I finished my live last night pertaining to Leilani Simon, who was found guilty on 19 counts in the death of her son, Quentin Simon, there was a verdict rendered for Sarah Boone. Here is that verdict.
Madam Clerk, please poll our jury.
Juror seat number 1, is this your true and correct verdict? Yes, it is. Juror seat number 2, is this your true and correct verdict? Yes, it is. Juror seat number 3, is this your true and correct verdict? Juror seat number 4, is this your true and correct verdict? Yes. Juror seat number 5, is this your true and correct verdict? Yes. Juror seat number 6, is this your true and correct verdict? Yes, ma'am.
Members of our jury, again, I want to thank you for your time, your sacrifice,
Hello, Black.
and your attention in this matter. I know that we spent almost 2 weeks together and it was not taken lightly, and I really appreciate the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you put into this case. I want to advise you now of your final instruction. Members, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and your consideration in this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak to anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. With that, members of the jury, again, I thank you for your service. I'm going to ask you return to the deliberation room. I'll be back there shortly with your jury certificates, and thank you.
Wow, jury certificates. I didn't know they got jury certificates. Okay. So the jury was polled, as they always do, after a verdict has been rendered. They make sure that everyone has given their true verdict. Now, the Leilani Simon, they was asked, is your verdict the same as it was then and now? So here they just asked you, is this your true verdict? 12 members said yes. One guy, seemed like number 3, he seemed ecstatic to tell, yes. Okay, calm down. Imagine sitting there realizing, I'll probably never get out of here. I was listening to that late last night, commentary from the news. And I don't know, it's hit me like a ton of bricks. It might have been in the court TV segment when the guy was talking to the host. And he was like, she didn't take that plea. And she's facing 16 to life. There's no guarantee she'll even get out. I thought about that. Like, wow. She served 4.5 years now because this crime took place, I believe, February of 2020, January or February 2020. So she's been incarcerated for 4.5 years. And she did not take the plea that was offered by the state. And now she gets a mandatory sentence of at least 16 to 30, 16 to life, excuse me. So it's like, why didn't you take the plea? Because she believed, as it has been said by her attorney, she believed her mind that she was a battered woman and that she was doing right by Jorge Torres that fateful night. It's very interesting information.
Ms. Boone, the jury has spoken in this matter and has found you guilty of murder in the second degree. The court adjudicates you guilty of murder in the second degree. As this is your first felony conviction, you are entitled to a pre-sentencing investigation by the Department of Corrections. Mr. Owens, are you seeking that in this case?
Yes.
Okay. State, I will order the Department of Corrections to prepare the pre-sentencing investigation. State,
Never
for the
heard that
purposes of
before.
sentencing, do you anticipate eliciting any testimony from, be it the victims, victim's family?
2 or 3 victim impact statements, sir.
Okay. Mr. Owens, do you plan on presenting any evidence during the course of the sentencing hearing, sir?
Probably some testimony from Dr. Walker.
Okay, all right. How long do you think, State, that you would need?
You mean timing-wise, or are we thinking?
A quantum of time, sir. Yeah, well, normally it takes about 30 days or so. I'm confirming with Anita as to availability. I just want to know from your side of the ledger, how much time? Okay, 15 minutes. How much time do you think you're going to need to produce anything from your side of the ledger, sir? Mr. Owens?
I'd say 30 minutes, 30 to 45.
So if we set this for an hour, that would be sufficient.
Pardon me. Okay, stated.
Is that sufficient, Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Okay, all right, give me a moment.
Hmm. Phyllis, what are you talking about? Daughter of who? Hmm.
Ms. Barrios is checking. Just give us a moment.
Oh, Lordy.
We can set this matter for 1:30 in the afternoon for sentencing on December 2. State, is that acceptable? It's a Monday.
I had a status here, but I'll make it work.
I can move it to later if necessary.
Well, she wants her
Defense.
sentence and get it over with.
Yes, sir.
That's Monday, December 2 at 1:30.
Yes, sir.
I can be here.
Ma'am, you've been adjudicated guilty. I now remand you into the custody of the Orange County Jail pending sentencing on December 2 at 1:30. State, anything else we need to address?
Definitely stay.
Defense. All right, thank you very much. We're off the record.
Off the record. What a case. Family sitting behind her. Looks like his mom was there with another guy on the end of her, probably his brother, and some other females. It's very interesting information. How does she feel now, knowing that she'll get probably longer? Because in the end, it's up to a parole board to decide her fate, to let her out. And as this one commentator was saying, that's a hell of a gamble. Banking on the judicial system, once again, to free you, to let you out. It's one thing to have the 12 members of a jury decide your fate, but now you have to bank on a parole board to let you out. Because let me say, 16 years to life, that's a long time. I never could understand when they gave the sentence 25 to life, which we already understand you got to do the mandatory, which will be the 25 or the 16, but it just seems weird when you say 25 to life or 16 to life. I never heard of 16 to life. What's the difference? 15, 16? I don't know. But now she has time to think about all that. She has time to think about everything. Sarah Boone has been deemed emotionless during trial. Also, people have weighed in, experts on her body language. We want to try to play a little bit of all of that so we can get a better understanding who Sarah Boone is, how she came to be in this situation. How did she end up here? Well, as I said before in my commentary, and I've commented, as I said under Mr. Vinny Politan's video, people hurt people every day. And the reasoning doesn't have to make sense because we know naturally we're not supposed to put our hands on people. But people pop off and people become numb, people become tired of people. As I said, I don't condone what she did to Jorge, but I just believe that's what happened here in this situation, that she became numb, she became tired. Because you gotta remember, you're talking about two people who are addicts. She was an alcoholic, he was an alcoholic drug addict. So that was a recipe for disaster anyway. Nothing good was gonna come out this relationship. Her finding out that he had been cheating on her, reading the text, they read those text messages during court. I'm sure that brought back a lot of old memories, old contempt for him. She may still have contempt for him. I don't know. She doesn't have to tell the court that. And she's probably, rehashed all that. They rehashed all that, and she probably was thinking of that. Yeah, that's why I zipped his ass up in that suitcase, because he was beating me, mistreating me. I was bailing him out, getting him out of trouble. They also talked about her having something that belonged to him. She was accusing him of taking something of her son's sunglasses or whatever. He's wanting his birth certificate. They were just going back and forth, back and forth. And what I found interesting about that in the text messages, she told him, I own the birth certificate. Wow, that was deep. I own it. I pay for everything. You have bought nothing. So she felt like he owed her. You sending her songs, talking about another woman. You never sent me songs. That would be hurtful to a person. A person is doing things to another person that they're not doing with you. But see, I have learned at 53, Lord knows I'm still in a learning phase, that we teach people how to treat us. So what you think you're missing from someone, you're not. Because he was no good for her. She was no good for him. They were evenly yoked in mischief. And neither one could see out clearly to break out and free themselves. Now, it's not to say that she wouldn't have got tangled up with another fool and he wouldn't have gotten, he could have gotten tangled up with another fool or erratic female. It doesn't really matter. The point is, you free yourself from the one that you're with, that you're having issues with. And we as people have to understand that. You can't expect something good to come from something bad. You can't continue to sit idly by and hope that a person will change. It's false hope. Trust me, I know all about it. And then you have to separate yourself from your physical being. This is where I tell myself, I step outside of Angela and I look back at her and I say, why are you doing this to yourself? That's what Sarah should have done. You don't need this person because they're not offering you anything. See, sometimes you have to step outside your body and look back at yourself as if the soul entity comes out as somebody else, and you're looking back at the physical being saying, why are you suffering so? Why are you allowing this person to make you suffer, bring you strife? You deserve better. And it doesn't matter who Sarah Boone is, her personality, she's dominant or she's narcissistic. She is like a lot of people. Everybody's got some type of quirk, some type of flawed personality to some degree. The point is, she should have left him alone and he should have left her alone. And they didn't. And that's what's so crazy when you read all those text messages. This is why I always say things can come back to haunt you. The things you put in a text message, things you don't even think about. When you're going off, you're venting, you're cussing people out, you're going off. God forbid you're in their company, something pops off. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to go through all your devices and look at your conversations. Because I thought that. Why did they go through her phone? Well, that's because she was the last person with them. So they just want to look in your phone and see what you've been talking about. Well, they got an earful. and an eyeful. So they could see the contempt in her text messages towards him. Why he won't act right, do right. I've been holding you up. I've been carrying you. And let me tell you, that's a burden to carry a grown-ass man. Because a woman shouldn't have to carry a man. That's just my personal opinion. I get it. If he's sick, but able-bodied, no. No. Then you're talking about the person being an addict. Triple threat. So you're carrying a lifeless, useless human being who also is an addict. Where can you go with that? Nowhere. They also mentioned in the text message she sent him money. She gave him money to go pay for something, and he went and bought beer with the money. See, this is what I'm saying. You're expecting something vainglorious from a person that don't even care about themselves. Because in the end, when people mistreat you for no reason, they're also showing you who they are and what they think of themselves. So it's not just they're mistreating you, they're showing you they don't like themselves. So it doesn't matter if they leave you, they go get with Susie Mae, and you think they got some great relationship? Probably not. That's the first thing I was thinking to myself yesterday. Imagine all these people you regurgitate out in life. Well, I was thinking about it maybe 2 days ago. You regurgitate, everybody's regurgitating other human beings. You're getting somebody's ex-husband, ex-wife, ex-lover. And it don't work with them. You know why it doesn't work? Because it didn't work with the last person. Come on with it now. I say that a lot about this area I live in. It's a small town. And everybody's regurgitating everybody's leftovers. Putting them on their hip and their pocket thinking they've got them a damn gem. They ain't got shit. All they got is a new problem because old habits die hard. So that's what you have to tell yourself when you keep seeing a person going around from place to place, person to person. You're saying to yourself, well, he was just with Susie 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Now he's got this new lady. Let's see how long that lasts. It won't. It usually doesn't. And just because people hang on to people, it doesn't mean that it's working. And I think a lot of us, we live in a bubble when it comes to relationships and looking at people through the looking glass. Oh, they seem happy. They ain't. Hell, watch enough true crime and TV to see ain't nobody happy. Because people don't have to tell you they're unhappy. They don't have to tell you they're miserable with this person. This person is mistreating them. They're cheating. They're abusing them. They're devoid of emotion. Well, they were devoid of emotion with the last person. But see, you learn people. And Sarah learned him, and he learned her. But sadly, they continue to deal with each other. And that's what's so baffling when you listen to the text messages read in court. Why did she go back in? Because she was a fool. That's all. We've all been a fool. I own my part. Queen has shared her stories on this network of being a fool. Foolish, rather. Trying to give people second chances when they didn't deserve the first chance. Because you don't owe anybody anything. And that's the lesson that needs to be learned in this case of Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres. You need to know when to fold, because this is not where you want to end up. We have a case here in Knoxville, Tennessee, that's new and fresh in court. A woman has been indicted by the grand jury for shooting her boyfriend in the face. And it's cold. And she does it on a 911 call. I must admit, when I listened to it the other day, I was stunned. I almost like had to, clutch my pearls that I didn't have on. 911, what is your emergency, please? Hello, hello. And she's talking to the boyfriend. And she says, headshot. Poof! Shoots him in the head right on the 911 call. That's cold, ain't it? So if you listen to that, what would you say? You probably say what you're saying about Sarah Boone. Oh my gosh, she's cruel. She doesn't have any emotion. But did you know what he had done to her? Stay woke now. Because I like the way both sides of the coin, because everybody's come down hard on Sarah Boone, what she did to him. But I also said, did you see the pictures of her in court where her eye was black, where it actually looked like somebody drew a black magic marker around her eye. She didn't do that to herself. So with this case of this woman who shoots her boyfriend on the 911 call, she accuses him of being a homosexual and cheating on her with men. And as she said to him, all you had to do was just tell me you like men. Exactly. So imagine what she's thinking while assuming and or have evidence that he's been messing around with men. She's thinking of her livelihood. Stay woke now. Oh, he's been having sex with men, so I probably need to get an HIV/AIDS test. Bingo card. This is why I always say it's easy to judge. Because we do this as humans. We judge people, but we're not in their shoes. And we're not in their mind, in their head space. That's why you have true crime. Because somebody popped off. Somebody popped off badly. So imagine being in that space where you learn or you assume you're sleeping with a gay man. So the first thing you're thinking, one, he's betrayed me, lied to me, and also I think I need to go get my sugar mama and my blood checked. Come on with it, Queen. Because that's some serious SHIT. And most people don't want to live with HIV/AIDS. Although we have medicine, many people have lived long lives now with new medicine. But it's just the thought itself. I get away from your ass, who's going to want me if I'm HIV positive? I'm going to have to tell them that's the right thing to do. But I don't want to because I don't want this curse. So I guess she said to herself, well, she's calling 911. She's calling to let them know, I got a package for you to pick up. Because I've been betrayed. I've been betrayed by this thing that I trusted. And I'm getting ready to knock his ass off. And she did on a live 911 call. I thought I couldn't be more stunned. Every day I go into this YouTube queue and I think I can't be more stunned. I go in the news break and read stories. I think I can't be more stunned. And then I hear another story that makes my eyebrows singe. You understand what I'm saying? It was cold. Yes, it was. She's letting the 911 caller know, I got a package for you to pick up. Boom, she shoots him. But see, we don't know what she and that guy had been going through. We don't know what he's been telling her, the lies he was spinning to her, what proof she has that he was gay. Did she find information in his phone? Anybody coming by the house, banging on doors? See, you don't know. We're not going to find that out. We're not going to find that out until trial. And oh boy, this one should be very interesting. Because any secrets that that man had, that dead man, it's going to all play out downtown Knoxville in the municipal building. And if nobody knew that he was gay, well, you're going to find out. And you're going to hear all the little dirty secrets. And naturally, somebody is not going to care that he was gay, bisexual. They're going to say, well, that's my son, that's my child, that's my brother. You had no right to kill him. You should have just left him. Kind of like Sarah Boone. She should have left Jorge, right? But she didn't. Because that's the point. The mind is a fragile entity. It's not made of nothing but tissue. That's why it breaks so easily. People say, oh, you're strong, you're strong. To you, I'm strong. But I'm still a human and I'm of the flesh. And that's what I think a lot of us don't want to accept about human beings. We put them on pedestals. We assume they should always be happy, be content with life, never get down. I know I said that. I've said it about famous people. What are you mad about? What are you crying about? You got all this money, you're living well. Most of us want what you have, but they are still human. They cry, they get upset, they get betrayed, they get lonely. They become suicidal, homicidal. They become addicts. They commit fraud, they lie, they cheat, they steal. They're of the flesh. This is why you can't idolize man. It's in the scripture. God told you don't put another God before him. He meant that. And he also told you when you trust another human being, you will surely be disappointed. And that's what's wrong with us. We trust people. We trust people too easily, too readily. We get in relationships with people too quickly, too readily, too easily. This is why we become disgusted early on. But as Dr. Phil would say, if you stay with a person 3 weeks and 1 day, so long as you left, that's all that matters. Don't make it 3 weeks and 2 days. And he's right. Because we beat ourselves up when we know we should have left the person and we stayed another day, another month, another year. The point is, you bowed out. You got out. You're free like OJ all day. Sarah got free, but at a cost. Jorge got free, but at a cost. And that's something to think about. Each could be living a full, healthy life had they left each other alone, but they chose not to. And you don't have to agree with what Sarah did, but know that what you put out to the universe can come back and bite you in the ass. And yes, what she did was wrong, but she also was with an abuser. I believe it's abuser. I look at her face. Nobody deserved to be punched like that, hit like that, foot swollen, face scarred up. He didn't have to beat the lady up either. So see, it's a two-way street. It's just like the movie The Burning Bed, based on actual events. He may not have been beating her on that fateful night, but he had been beating that woman down for years. She had children. And one night she decided, I don't want to do this anymore. So she set the damn house on fire with him sleeping in the bed, you see. Because the mind flips, something clicks, something pops off inside of the brain that says, I don't want to do this no more. But I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. My recommendation is not to be in that predicament, because you don't have to harm people, hurt people, either side, whether it's the victim deciding to act out or the perpetrator. Why be a perpetrator? See, because you can't have one without the other. And that's what people need to understand. Why be a perpetrator when you can treat people accordingly? It's not working out. You realize you have a temper. You fly off the handle. Go get some counseling. You don't have to beat a person up. You don't have to push a person, choke a person, strangle a person, cut a person. Why? And sadly, there are many people who are living these type of relationships. They're being battered by people. And the point is, something bad is going to happen. And that's what I said about this case. Something bad was going to happen between Sarah and Jorge. That was inevitable. It may not have been a suitcase, but it was going to be a bad day in that house because they were hitting each other. And all those times he was punching her, he could have knocked her eye out the eye socket. Do you understand what I'm saying? He could have blinded the lady. Could have busted her eardrum. She could have fell, hit her head on a coffee table, bled out. Then he would be where Sarah is. Stay woke. Then she had a son. That was not conducive for a child. It's not a proper way to rear a child in an abusive household. That wasn't his father. He had his own father. So a child didn't need to be witnessing their mother being beat. See, nobody even talked about that. What the child saw, what the child witnessed. I don't know if the child lived there or not, but the point is the child was in that household and you don't know what that child saw. And let me tell you, children lead by example. They grow up seeing their parents abuse. The guy usually becomes an abuser and the girl child ends up becoming a victim herself. So she chooses an abuser for a lover, for a boyfriend, for a husband. The son grows up to hate women, hate his mother. Stay woke now. So we have to pray that this doesn't become a generational curse with her son. See how we all avenues of true crime. Because it doesn't just stop with the guilty verdict. Everybody's going to go their separate way. She's going to do her time, but she also has a child. And this child now has a mother who's incarcerated, that he has to now go see in a prison if he's allowed. We also have to pray for his journey and what he was subjected to in being in the care of Sarah Boone. Wow, 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 wow. I want to play some snippets of the trial. Thank you for joining me. Court TV is the source. Hope everybody's well today. Gonna fast forward a little bit to this contents. These guys gotta say. Sad day for Sarah Boone. Same with Leilani Simon, but that's the road these people chose. So you have to own the part you play in life. Everybody played a part.
Defender out in LA who's been with us through the years, as have the other members of our think tank covering this story, this case, and this saga. Philip, I'll get your reaction
Gene.
first to this rather swift verdict, less than an hour and a half on a Friday night.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing a red tie tonight, Vinny, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of pink in it because I think of it almost like our purple states. There's a mix of the blue and the red, and I was really on the fence with so much of her case. She truly believed in her truth. She spoke truth to power, but the jury rejected her truth. She truly psyched herself up into believing that she was a battered partner, but the jury clearly rejected her truth. Wow. She is the prime example. This is the case why we settle. And it is so tragic that she did not take the 15 years against the advice of counsel. And unfortunately, we can only advise our clients. We cannot force them to take the deal. And she exercised her right. She held her head up high and took that stand, and she lost. And it's sad because the truth be told, she is never getting out.
Wow.
So you don't think she's getting out under these circumstances?
Never.
Because
no,
of the
she will die. No, just because it's going to be an indeterminate sentence. She will be at the mercy of the Florida Department of Corrections Parole Board. I sincerely doubt that they will ever cut her loose. She's just going to be spending the rest of her life there as an inmate with a reg number.
When I heard him say this last night, I'm telling you, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It just did. When he said these exact words, indeterminate amount of time in Florida prison, it just hit me. Why didn't she settle? Because she didn't want to. And that's the whole point. That she made this choice on this fateful night with Mr. Torres. She was offered a plea deal by the state. She did not want it. She wanted to go to trial. She testified, demonstrated what happened in the suitcase. Evidence was played in court from her own phone device. Medical examiner testified, and the jury still said, no, you did this to him. You're going to have to pay. She could have been out in a couple of years. That's what was said a couple of weeks ago when the state offered to plead. She's already served 4. So if she got the total of 15 years, she probably would have got out half of that. She probably would only have to have done just a couple of more years because, with good behavior, no sanctions against her in prison, they would have freed her from prison. But instead, she wanted to go with this battered spouse or battered partner defense, and she lost.
Bernarda Villalona, your reaction to tonight's verdict?
I'm not surprised that this jury found Sarah Boone guilty. First off, when you think of the callousness and that she actually had this man inside of that suitcase, inside of that coffin, and walked away and had him there for hours, where she was the only person that could have gotten him out. I think that really stuck with the jury. Also, she never showed any type of remorse or compassion during her testimony or throughout the trial itself. Plus, her own words in that videotape where she's cursing and not even caring for his pleas, taking that all into account, and also the use of the bat, she did herself in. And obviously the jury did not find her credible. Obviously the jury did not buy the battered syndrome and didn't buy the expert testimony in this case, and found her guilty, and found her guilty fairly quickly.
Paulette Lofton, your thoughts, your reaction to this verdict tonight?
Sorry about that intermission. What do y'all think about that? No emotion, no crying, because she was numb, as I said before. I knew that when I saw her talking. She was numb. That's why she did what she did on that fateful day, fateful night. The fact this woman used coffin, that he was in a coffin and she didn't get him out. Wow, that's deep.
Sometimes you just have to go to trial. I think Sarah committed herself to believing her story and believing her truth. And sometimes you just have to do the trial. Obviously, in hindsight, she definitely should have taken the deal. But she stuck to her story. I think she did have some things on her side. The fact that the judge allowed all of that evidence in of the prior abuse, the fact that she had an expert on her side saying she was a battered woman. I'm pretty sure she went into this feeling somewhat confident. Obviously, when the jury came back in an hour and a half and she received that message, I'm sure her stomach sank.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Chu, what did you think of her reaction tonight?
Well, Vinny, I just have to push back a little bit out of the greatest respect for Philip, and I have enormous respect for him. I reject the idea that people have their own truth. I think there's one truth, and the truth was that she did this, and whatever she has convinced herself is true in her own mind is not relevant, nor do I think it is a tragedy that she rejected the plea deal. She should have taken the plea deal. I don't think it's a tragedy. I just think it's a mistake. A tragedy is when an innocent person dies. I don't think it's a tragedy here. I think she's a mistake. And if she deluded herself, the fault is hers.
Wow.
And here's her final moments in the court. One thing about where she is right now, there are some defendants, and we've covered cases like that, where they get out on bond and they're outside waiting for their trial. Then they get convicted, and then it's a major change in their life. Bernarda, how much of a change do you think this will be for Sarah Boone, going from inmate in the jail waiting for your trial to now a ward of the state going to the state penitentiary?
Well, there's going to be a huge change for Sarah Boone, because you have to think that this trial and facing trial one day was giving her hope. Every day that she was waiting for her trial, she had hope of freedom at some point. And now today that has been taken away from her. So not only is she going to lose hope when she goes back to the jail, but she's also looking to go to a state prison, which is completely different from the housing facility where she's at now, where she was doing good and she was a model citizen to fellow inmates. Now she's going with the mind frame that she may die in jail one day. So what is her hope to keep on going inside of that prison?
Wow.
While she's serving this sentence?
Well, her hope would be appeals, but she's conditioned. That's one thing that's for sure. The jail may be, You know, it's going to be different than going to prison naturally because you're going to have now more inmates, new people to get used to, new way of doing things, food, this and that. But she's conditioned. That's one thing that has not changed. She's conditioned. She's been in there for 4 years. So she's conditioned, whether it's jail or prison. She's used to the cell life, the getting up at certain times to eat, to take a shower, you know, when they open the doors and let you out for your free time. She's used to all of that. She's just gonna now go to a bigger house. That's all. She's going to a bigger house with different guards, different staff members, different inmates. How will she fare at the new prison? How will she be able to adjust? Will she get along well with the new inmates, the new staff? Will she wow out? Bank out? I don't know. And prayers for Miss Jean Spratt. My condolences to you. It's sad that she didn't take it. You know, sad for her. I'm sure many people don't have, you know, empathy or sympathy for Miss Boone because of what she did. And as you heard him say, he's an innocent victim. Well, some people might say he wasn't really innocent. I'm just saying. Because there's always going to be some people who will say, well, she was battered. I know, I've been through it. I saw one woman's comment who said she knew what it was like to be a battered woman. Comment box. Being thrown down a flight of stairs or thrown down or something, she said, you know, picked up, whatever, people battering you. You do become numb at some point. And I think that's what you saw in court, a numb human being. She got so accustomed to being abused by Jorge, it was nothing. And that's why you don't see any emotion. There was no emotion when he got in the suitcase. There was no emotion when she got arrested. There's no emotion in jail. There's no emotion during trial because she's numb. She's been numb a long time. And who's to say she wasn't numb before she met Jorge? Because I don't know her story, her backstory, how she was raised, her relationship with her ex-husband. But you can't go back. She should have taken the deal, but she didn't because she probably thought, well, I'd rather gamble on freedom versus the 15 years. Let me take my chances. Somebody might hold up the jury. Somebody might say, hey, I think this lady is battered. But that didn't happen.
Let me ask you, Philip, what are those conversations like after someone's been convicted and you're the attorney, you're sitting there, you did the best you could do, the facts are what they are, the verdict is what it is. What is that conversation like? What is that moment like?
Well, the first thing I don't do is rub it in. I never, ever, ever whisper in there, see, I told you, you should have taken that deal. I don't. It's a tough moment. And I've said this repeatedly on your show, Vinny, and that is I've done 140 jury trials, and at every verdict, I get butterflies. I get nervous. I get a little queasy. And frankly, I feel the grief that she feels. And yeah, I agree with Ben. It was a huge mistake. It's sort of a hybrid mistake tragedy. Obviously, there's a victim here. There's a defendant who will never see the light of day again. But, you know, I think she and her counsel, and just like myself when I do a trial, we truly believe in our defense. Otherwise, I would double, triple team my client with lawyers from my office to sit her down or any client down to say, we have zero chance. We are going to lose. You must take this deal. If you do not, you will never see the light of day again. And it sounds like that her previous 8 attorneys told her that they needed to settle on her behalf and that it would be too risky to go to trial, and she wouldn't listen. Right. But in answer to your question, I don't rub it in. Instead, I commiserate with them. And in fact, sometimes I even hurl a few insults toward the system, toward the bench, toward prosecutors in my client's ear to console them a little bit so they understand that I'm with them. I never want my client to lose confidence or trust in me as their counsel. And I let them know immediately, we will appeal. It's not over. We're going to take it from here and we will fight for you to the bitter end. I want them to know that we will do that.
And that's what I said. That's all she has at this point are the appeals. To pray she can get an appeal and it's heard by a higher court. That's it. And I said, if she was to get out in a couple of years, you know, She still will be under 60, perhaps. Still could try to savor some type of life, but it's still life that's been cut because this is a choice that she made. It's a hell of a choice. That's why I say you have to be careful the company you keep, the people you be around, the things you allow in your life, because we do take for granted breathing and walking and being able to hop around, skip around, hold conversations with people. But we don't think about the worst case scenario, which is getting in an abusive relationship, being in a relationship to where we become so emotionally attached to the person that we become detached from them, because it can go both ways. You could be in a relationship where you become so enthralled with the person and you're jealous of them and you're worried about what they're doing, what they're saying, and you think they're messing around, and now you're flipping out and you may actually have proof and you're wearing this person down with allegations and being accusatory, and they still hold on to you, but you then become detached from the world. And then you start acting out, and then you start doing things, hollering, screaming, hitting them, throwing things, vandalizing cars, going to their job, showing out. You see where I'm going? That shit is going to have a bad ending. So you see, it can go different ways. Doesn't necessarily have to be, okay, I'm mad at this SOB. Let's see if he gets in his suitcase and I let him sit in there and suffocate to death. It could be you tired of your husband, boyfriend cheating on you, girlfriend, however it goes, and you start acting out, wigging out. You start plotting. You start plotting. My thing is, once it goes to that thought process, you want revenge, you got to start acting out violently with your hands. You're going through phones. You're throwing things. You're tearing up valuables. It's time to bow out. And you also need to get you some help, because you have become detached from reality and it's no way to behave, and you're not going to make it. Because the one thing you have to know about people, you can't change them. They're going to do what they want, and they will finesse you to the very end. I love you. I care. Why are you acting like this? I'm not doing anything. I love you, blah, blah, blah. While they're out here sticking their wee-wee in everything that moves. Or whatever it is that they're doing to you that you feel is wrong. Bow out. Save yourself. Because this is not where you want to end up. Sarah Boone's story. Either in the shoes of Sarah Boone or the shoes of Mr. Torres. You don't want to be either one.
Yep.
Brief intermission. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeGanchi, 129 Cash App, stickers and chats are always welcome during the live stream. Thank you for joining me on this early morning live.
Paulette, looking at everything that's transpired tonight, and that shot of George's family inside the courtroom, to go through this case and this trial, it was George who was, put on trial by the defense. That's what the defense was here. But they'll have their moment to speak about the impact of all this at the sentencing. What are your thoughts about victim impact statements and its role in our system of justice?
I think victim impact statements are very, very important, because I think as lawyers and obviously judges, we have so many cases that we do. We see so many trials, we do so many trials. Being a judge, you're presiding over so many different sets of facts. And those victim impact statements really humanize the facts that you're hearing. They are getting, the judges are listening to actual family members give their thoughts on what type of person he was. Obviously, we were shown many videos of George not being a stand-up guy.
Right.
We heard testimony that this relationship was probably absolutely horrible.
Right.
But it's going to give the family a chance to humanize him and to tell the court that he was a good person outside of the few videos that the court had been shown. So I think it has a huge impact. I think Obviously the defense's job in this case is to attack George, and I think that they did that. It's always difficult as a defense attorney to do.
Let me stop right here. I noticed the TV was messed up, her flat screen. She has him on camera beating her flat screen, a big boy TV with a baseball bat. Please tune into the court near the end and also this video. You will see Mr. Juarez beating her TV with a baseball bat. Now imagine somebody hitting you with that baseball bat. So he was very violent, Mr. Torres. That's why I said some people might watch some of these things that were said in the trial, her text messages to him, watching him beat this TV. Somebody say, well, hey, what's good for the goose? Some people may not like what I'm saying, but I'm sitting here looking at the TV screen, and I knew that more than likely he was the one that vandalized that television. And she's got him on camera. She's filming it. He's beating her TV with a baseball bat. Why are you tearing up this woman's thing? See, this is what I'm talking about. He put himself in this situation to where she turned on him. She turned on him. And I don't really think people realize that when you're out here and you're mistreating people and you're abusive to them, you have to be a crazy MF to still stay in their company. Nobody's even talking about that. It's just, you're looking at him in that suitcase and he's begging for life. Please let me out. I can't breathe, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but now they're going back in life to show you what Jorge was doing before he got in that suitcase. And no, he was not a nice guy. And let me tell you, you go right now in somebody's house and beat their fucking TV with a baseball bat, you probably going to end up just like you did in that damn suitcase. I'm going to keep it real. Because that's somebody's belongings that you're tearing up with a baseball bat. And I already know that most people would lose their mind if they was going to stand there and watch you beat their damn TV down with a damn bat. Oh, yeah, it's going to be some smoke in the city. I don't give a damn if the woman was as small as him. She'd be trying to stop him. Like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you turning up my TV? That's what I'm trying to tell you. This was a recipe for disaster. This relationship was not going to end well, and it didn't. He may have been 100 pounds strong, 103 pounds, but he knew how to fight at 5'2". He knew how to punch. He knew how to kick. He knew how to push. He knew how to shove. And as I said, I'm not taking up for Sarah Boone. All I'm saying is you got to own the part you play when you do these type of things. You can't think that something bad won't happen to you. Yeah, relationship made in hell. Exactly. And that's what they do, as this woman is saying here. You can see that they had a bad relationship. He was not a nice guy, but they're going to play him as a nice guy because he's dead. He didn't deserve this. He's a human. People can change. Well, that's the reason why Sarah held on. She thought he would change, but he didn't. Oh, I would be pissed the fuck off right now if somebody came here and started beating down flat screens. But then you're probably in fear because they're holding a bat and you looking like, shit, I ain't trying to get hit with that bat, even if you wanted to lash out and fight them back. Do you want to get beat with a bat? Probably not. Hell yeah. They had no business together. No business together at all.
To do that because you never want to speak ill of the dead. But unfortunately, you have to do that a little bit. But hopefully in the victim impact statements, they'll be able to rehabilitate the character that was torn down during the trial.
Ben Chu, I think about this couple, and we've used the term toxic relationship. That was the term we were throwing around during your trial, during the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. And these relationships exist behind closed doors. Things can get ugly. You fuel it with alcohol or something else, right, and things get out of control. To me, that's that's the super tragedy that exists in places all around the country.
Exactly.
And it's happening tonight on a Friday
Exactly,
night. Somebody's
exactly.
opening up a bottle of something,
Yeah.
or smoking something else,
Yeah.
or snorting something else.
Exactly.
And things are going to get ugly behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And with all these high profile cases, and we see tragic results, it doesn't end the cycle, though. And to me, that's
Exactly.
the other tragedy that gets revealed by something like this when it goes as bad as it can go. Because if George and Sarah were sober, this never would have happened. He wouldn't have gotten into the suitcase to begin with, or the fight, whatever it is, he would have been able to get out of the situation. She may not have done what she did. I just see two people that shouldn't be together, number
Exactly.
one, and then obviously should not be engaging in any sort of mind-altering substances, whether it's alcohol or something else. It just makes everything that much worse.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah, Vinny, I think that's extremely, that aspect of it is tragic, and it is taking place, all over the country probably tonight.
All right. The verdict is in, folks. Sarah Boone guilty, second-degree murder. Kelly Craft is at the courthouse. When we come back, she's going to speak with James Owens, Sarah Boone's attorney, in an exclusive interview. Don't go.
All right, I'm going to stop there. Well said, Mr. Politan. Mind-altering things, drugs, alcohol, they don't mix. They never mix. Two alcoholics don't have any business together. If you're with somebody and you're not a drinker or a heavy drinker, it's not going to work. They like to spaz out, wild out, get crunk, get drunk. I know somebody that's like that. They would drink, and then all of a sudden they would just start acting out. Just turn at the drop of a hat. You don't have to say anything, nothing. You don't have to do anything. That's a person that's tainted. Spirit is tainted. So now imagine two people are on the same page. Both are drinkers, both are on drugs. Nobody should be surprised that somebody's dead. Come on, let's be serious. We're not talking about happy drunks, happy crackheads. These people were not that. He liked to beat the woman, tear up her things. Now he's dead. Now he's dead. And let's be truthful. If he was like this with Sarah, he probably would do it with somebody else. I'm not about to sit here and believe a person just wakes up and start beating up people and beating up their TVs and their things in their house. And then somebody wants to say, oh, they didn't do that with their last girlfriends. Oh, so you're going to just put it all on Sarah? Oh, she was just such a bad, she made him act like this. Well, then he should have been glad to leave her ass alone. Well, let me get away from her because I've never acted like this with my other girlfriends. She's bringing out the worst in me. Let me find me somebody else to be with. Let me go be by myself. This man was not self-sufficient. That's why he was living with his parents, when she put him out. He didn't hold down a job. He didn't work. He didn't do anything. So those are things that have nothing to do with Sarah Boone. You holding your own, you being resourceful, you being responsible as a grown-ass man, that don't have anything to do with Sarah Boone. That's your choice. That you're not even responsible. You're not even out here wanting better for yourself. That's why I said these people are showing you they don't love themselves. Grown-ass man don't work, don't got a job, don't got a car, don't have anything fulfilling. The only thing he can add to the table is his penis. And what did I tell you about that? You can get penis and kitty cat anywhere. And that's what Sarah should have told herself. He's nothing but just a limp D-I-C-K. That's all he was to her. Penis. Drunk penis.
Suitcase murder trial. Big verdict on this Friday night here on Court TV. We're going to take you straight down to the courthouse in Orlando. Kelly Craft is there with Sarah Boone's attorney. Kelly.
Hey there, Vinny. Yeah, it didn't take very long for the jurors to return a verdict in this case. Sarah Boone guilty of second-degree murder. We are joined now by her defense counsel, who advocated for her vehemently throughout this trial. This is James Owens. James, what's your reaction to the verdict?
Just disappointed. Sarah's devastated. She's disappointed. We felt like we had a good defense with the facts that we had. Obviously, we had some hurdles to overcome for the state's evidence, and for a reason the jury didn't see it our way. We respect the jury's decision. I'm sure that Sarah Boone is going to want to appeal. I believe that she does have potentially 2 or 3 good appellate issues. So,
Okay. And what are those?
Thing in store is I think we've got sentencing.
He says she's got 2 or 3 good appellate issues. What would those issues be? Are you, sir, going to represent her in the next appeals? And what are the issues you are speaking of that would weigh in her favor to get an appeal? What are you going to say, or what is the next lawyer going to say was not done effectively in this trial to warrant her an appeal? Now, I believe one of the lawyers had said something during closing arguments about, it was her attorney saying something about her going down to the police station, not knowing that she was going to be arrested. She thought she was going to get her phone. So basically he was saying they were luring her down there to arrest her, and not tell her the truth why she was actually going down there. And basically the judge said that wasn't allowed during the closing arguments. It's very interesting information.
Set for, I believe, Monday, December the 2nd at 1:30. And we intend to call Dr. Harper as a witness to speak about her other mental health issues that she struggles with, and hopefully the court will consider that.
Mr. Owen, Sarah Boone was offered a plea deal in this case, manslaughter. She did not take it. What do you think now, having the verdict?
Well, ultimately, that's their decision. They've got a couple of fundamental decisions. One is whether to plead guilty to anything, and the other is whether to go to trial, and the other is, whether to testify, and then the other is whether to appeal. And so Sarah Boone maintained that she wanted a trial the entire time, and we did discuss, there were plea negotiations, and there were offers on the table for the lesser charge of manslaughter. But Sarah ultimately rejected those offers and wanted her day in court.
She felt, it seemed throughout this entire trial, she seemed to be very upbeat. It seemed, though, I was getting the sense she really felt she hadn't done anything criminally wrong.
Well, I think, I believe she's a better spouse. And I believe she believes she's a better spouse. Once she learned, and we gave her a bunch of material about the subject, once she learned, what she had gone through with George Torres, I think she believed she was a better spouse. So we believed in that scenario that she was justified in defending herself. And so she felt good because she had a defense, and she had lawyers. Initially she was going to represent herself, and then she did that for a while, and I think she appreciated the fact that we came in, myself, Tony Henderson, and Kevin Beck, and then our team. We had 5 or 6 people working on the case for the last 45 days trying to get ready for trial, and I think she appreciated our efforts. She knew we were working hard. I've been here in Orlando for 3 weeks, and then the rest of the team's been here for 2 weeks, so we've been doing everything we could do to represent her to the best of our ability, and that's what we did with the time that we had.
You really put up a good fight. Were you surprised that the jurors came back as quickly as they did?
I was. I think that, the rebuttal evidence where they played a bunch of videotapes of off Sarah's phone where there were some interactions with Sarah and George, I think that affected the jury.
What do you think another big challenge was for you in this case?
Well, of course, the suitcase video is difficult to deal with. And then,
So basically he feels like those text messages affected the jury's decision to convict her second-degree murder. This is where they're arguing and bickering back and forth through text messages. But we vent when we're angry, do we not? It's just what we do. When we're angry, we vent, we curse, we threaten people, we go off. That's why I would say you have to be very careful what you put in the text message. You have to be careful what you speak on your tongue, because you can speak it into existence. And next thing you know, someone is now inquiring and asking you questions about a dead person.
To our interrogation at the sheriff's department. So, we have evidence. That's probably the best evidence in a case is videotape. Oftentimes is the best evidence. And, we had some big hurdles to overcome. And obviously the jury, and I respect the jury's decision, saw it a different way than we presented.
During your closing arguments, one of the things that you talked about was we're in 2024 and the perception that the state may be trying to give that she in a way deserved this, that she was the aggressor. You talked about how men are taught not to put a hand on a woman. I thought that was pretty powerful. I thought that was going to resonate a little bit more with the jury.
Yeah, I think that, it was a long trial and the testimony came out, the state and a bunch of evidence about, like I said, the video interactions between George and Sarah. And some of that, it seemed like Sarah was berating him a little bit and talking down to him a little bit. And, the state had argued that this was a mutual abusive situation, that Sarah verbally, emotionally maybe abused him. So I think there was some of that going on. In the relationship. It was a dysfunctional, toxic relationship. Obviously, those two didn't need to be together, but they, for whatever reason, they could not stay away from each other.
Exactly.
And even when she had been battered multiple times by him over time, for whatever reason, they couldn't break up. And it just, I think everybody around, law enforcement, the neighbors, family, all knew how bad the situation was, but for whatever reason, they were drawn to each other and couldn't let go.
Wow.
The judge
Gotcha,
mentioned before
Arlene.
the verdict was read that he did not want any outbursts in the courtroom. We had one earlier from George Torres's family. No real reaction from Sarah Boone. I just saw her talking with you, but obviously, as you were mentioning, seems to be not very happy, devastated with the verdict.
Yeah, she couldn't believe it. We were optimistic. We were optimistic, and I understand, these things happen, and there's some murder charge. So, somebody died. So it's difficult for a jury sometimes not to come back with something. And they came back with the highest charge. I was hoping maybe for something lesser, but we understand Sarah's in shock. It happened, and then she was escorted out of the court fairly quickly. So we really didn't get a chance to talk that much. She said she would call me tomorrow. I'm going to be driving back home, and we'll talk. I'll be on the road for 6 hours, so we'll talk for however long. But I explained to her she had a right to an appeal, and she had 2 or 3 good appellate issues. So I told her to keep her head up.
Mr. Owens, you were not her first attorney. She went through several attorneys. How was she to work with?
She was fine. I think once she realized, it wasn't just me. And I spent a lot of time down here with her. And then once she realized Tony Henderson really helped me out a lot with Sarah Boone. And, I've represented some difficult clients. I've been doing it quite a while. But Sarah, was, of course, she didn't want to give up the power because she had the case for 4.5 years. She had so many different lawyers. So, but I think once she started to trust us and realized that we really cared about her, we really believed in her, and we wanted to do everything we could to fight for her, I think she finally, it didn't take too long for her to develop a sense that we were really genuinely trying to help her. And I think once she saw how hard we were working and everything we were trying to do to help her, we didn't have a problem.
And you got involved with this case because you saw that
Now, she had a very interesting letterhead to whomever she wanted to help represent her. I think she realized she was at the end of her rope. She didn't have any choice but to try to work with somebody because the judge told her in the end, this is it, we're done. We're not going to appoint you another public defender because you've gone through so many and we don't have time for this. It's time for you to go to trial. So that was her wake-up call. But this is what she wrote on her letterhead to whomever to help her her representation. And some will say she's cocky and arrogant, and she possibly is. And that's why I told people she possibly had these characteristics before she met Jorge. But in the end, nobody has a right to beat you up and put their hands on you because you are cocky or overzealous or you are arrogant. We deal with these type of human beings every day. But I always say that what you put out to the universe, you eventually get back. But she says, inmate seeks attorney looking for prosperous challenge, ready for your close-up on national television. Are you zealous with a side of king? This is interesting. Arrows toward the top of the letterhead with inmate seeks attorney. Some would think this didn't seem very serious. especially when you say ready for your close-up on national television. That almost makes you think Sarah wasn't taking this serious. Then she says, are you zealous with a side of keen? So see, you notice this was her demeanor on the body cam where she's making all these gestures. She's drunk. The police are at her house because they had fallen out or something. And she's jumping up and down and she's putting her hand all over her face, acting animated. That's because she was drunk. But here she's sober in the jail when she wrote this letterhead seeking an attorney. I just think this is her personality. She's just maybe over the top in her personality, headstrong. It's just Sarah Boone. She's not the first. She won't be the last.
She had taken out an ad.
Yeah, as you know, the court had ruled that she forfeited her right to a lawyer, a public lawyer. And so she was going to have to represent herself. And I think she went to a couple of hearings and realized that that's a lot harder than it looks. And that's when she had reached out for somebody in the private bar to take the case. And I came down and visited with her, and I agreed to do it. So we were in it to win it. We tried everything we could do to present the case in a fashion that the jury would consider her side.
I think one of the biggest moments was when you got the experts of the states to talk about the fact that she did believe that Sarah Boone suffered from battered spouse syndrome. I thought that was going to be a big game changer for you.
Well, it was. You know, I've got some disagreements about how that was all handled because she came out with an opinion that she had never expressed before.
And then you had to conduct a deposition right there in court.
Yeah, I've never had to do that. That was a first. But it was a unique situation. Of course, you know, the judge had set a date certain about trying the case. So I had the case for about 45 days. But we tried to schedule Dr. Warner's deposition. I believe we took it on October the 4th. And then later on, she came up with another opinion that I wasn't aware of until in the courtroom. And the judge allowed me to take a deposition. I never heard of it happening before. Mm-hmm. First time it ever happened, but it did. And, you know, we did the best that we could to...
so what was that opinion? To
counter that and then to cross-examine her. But, yeah, I think initially she had said she hadn't made up her mind about it. But I think after a little bit of time, she decided to go ahead and give the opinion that Sarah did suffer from battered spouse. And that corroborated what Dr. Harper had said, that she did suffer from battered spouse syndrome. So
now that's the worst thing, is to have someone come in and you've spoken with that person about your client and their personal issue, mental issues, and then they go into court and give a different opinion. I would say that would be a problem. And that's probably one of the factors they're going to use in her appeal. That the person was iffy when they came in to testify on behalf of Sarah Boone. Wow, what a mess.
I guess that was a good of that.
Any thought in hindsight that maybe there was a motion to eliminate for you not to use the battered spouse syndrome defense, to not talk about self-defense? Obviously, you got to be able to do that. The state was very clear. She needs to say there's an overt act. She eventually did. She said his hand coming out of the suitcase was that overt act. In hindsight, could there have been another strategy that you could have taken that could have been more successful, maybe not argue battered spouse syndrome?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, what she was saying in that 2-minute video to George while he was in the suitcase, I'm convinced was tied to the trauma that she had received from the abuse that she had suffered from George. And I just think Dr. Harper, you know, it's a complex syndrome. It really is. And it's difficult for lay people to understand. I've tried to talk to, you know, the psychologist, the psychiatrist about it to try to understand it. You know, why somebody wouldn't leave that situation. Why, you know, if they're getting beaten up, they're getting stabbed in the leg.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you leave that situation?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's a head scratcher for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason you bring in expert testimony, is to try to explain that to a jury what was going on. But it's difficult for people to really understand.
Yeah.
When Sarah Boone refused the plea offer, the judge made it very clear to her that the minimum he could sentence her to would be 22 years in prison. Is she prepared for the sentence? It's going to be in December.
I don't think she's prepared.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
22 years. That's, oh, Lord have mercy. She's not a smart lady. Not a smart lady at all.
I think she was in hopes, she was excited about us and she felt like she had a defense and that we were doing everything and she had the experts lined up. So I don't think she was thinking about this at all. I think she was very optimistic. That's why she was optimistic during the trial. She was happy with us every day. She was happy with what we were doing. And of course, she understood that it was a valid defense in Florida. Battered spouse using it to justify the force that you use. So, yeah, she's devastated, and she hadn't come to grips. Like I say, I'll talk to her tomorrow, but she was just stunned today.
Vinny also has a question. Vinny, what's the question?
Yeah, I had a couple questions for James. First, at the sentencing, will this judge have much discretion in what the sentence can be? And do you expect Sarah to express any sense of remorse at sentencing?
At the sentencing, will the judge, Vinny's asking, at the sentencing, will the judge have any discretion? This is her first felony. The judge made that very clear. So that's the first question. And then the second question is, will Sarah Boone say something? Will she express any sort of remorse for what took place? Will she make a statement in allocution at her sentencing? I know you have to take some preparation time for that.
I think the prosecutor had said the low end of the guidelines was 22 years, and I think the judge told Sarah that. So I think that probably is the minimum, unless there's something I'm missing, maybe a downward departure. I don't know that she would qualify, but the judge has a range, and the judge has the discretion, and the judge, is going to hear from the victim's family, and then the judge is going to hear from Dr. Harper, and ultimately the judge is going to have to hear from Sarah Boone about this. I don't know what her position is going to be, but we'll see.
Mr. Owens, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Okay, we're going to end it there. Feel free to finish that commentary. Court TV. He put on a good defense. He felt like his client worked with them. As I said, she didn't really have a choice. She wanted to go to trial. They introduced this battered spouse syndrome. It's valid in the state of Florida. She rode the ride. Although she didn't show any, emotion and remorse during trial, she may at sentencing, I don't know. Naturally, his relatives will speak. But what weighs in her favor is the fact she has not committed any other crimes in the state of Florida or anywhere else. This is her first felony. So that may weigh in sentencing, that she has not been in trouble with the law anywhere else, in other jurisdictions. Model citizen, that may help, or model inmate rather, while incarcerated, but nonetheless, it is a second-degree murder charge. So all those factors will weigh in how she reacts in court during sentencing, what she says, what his family says. Once again, the fact that this is her first felony charge. We will wait to see December 2nd what the judge will render. What do you think the judge will render? Because now on this screen, they had 16 to life, but now you're hearing him mention something about 22 years. That's a lot at 47. That's 69. You're talking about getting out at 70 years of age almost. If she was to do 22 on top of the 4 she's already done, I don't think she'll do the 22 because she's already served 4. They would probably subtract that amount. But still, you're talking about what? 18 years? But it's a choice that Sarah made. And as you heard this commentator saying, she didn't leave. He didn't leave. And her attorney is saying, I don't know why. She didn't leave him. And that's the point. It was a two-way street. Either one could have bailed out and got out of the relationship. Because even in court, they showed a gash in her leg. You could see where there's a puncture mark on the top of her leg. That's where he cut her. They also showed a picture of her in the hospital where I guess he had injured her leg and the foot was swollen. And she had a big cast on her foot all the way up to her leg. So you're showing all these things where he abused this lady. It's not like it's just her saying, "Hey, I was abused." They have pictures of her in the hospital with a full cast on. I mean, we're not talking about no little one. It was a big one, big black one, from the foot all the way up to the calf, and marks on her face where he's beat her, scratched, face scratched up, cut up, leg cut up, eye black. I mean, black. Like I said, it looks almost drawn on. Then she's got him on camera beating her TV. So as I said, imagine what you don't know. Imagine what hasn't been filmed. And sadly, she filmed, this man in a suitcase. And then when they show her zipping it up in court, she's zipping it up and trying to zip it. They're helping her zip it up. It's just hard to even believe that a person would climb themselves into a suitcase. I'm looking at the video of in the courtroom, and I still can't understand why a person would allow themselves to go in there, because I wouldn't have done it. But that's the point. I'm not Mr. Torres. If I was that size, I wouldn't climb in it. For what? Not climbing into a suitcase. Not climbing into a tub, suitcase, a bin, a chest, a drum. For what? Because that would be the first thing I would think to myself. That's why I said everybody's different. That's what I would think to myself. I climb into this, now I've got to pray that, one, I don't get stuck in here, or you don't do anything to prevent me from getting out. That's how Queen thinks. Any type of small space, I'm not going to go crawl in there. Just like some people are into bondage, handcuffs. I wouldn't do it for that very reason of what we're talking about right now. The fact that you would tie me up to something, a bedpost, something sturdy, heavy, and I couldn't get loose. And then you would decide you want to torture me or leave me there. This is why you have to be careful playing these type of games, because you're assuming you're in good favor with that person at that time. But as you see, Jorge had to learn the hard way, a fatal way. He wasn't in good favor with Sarah Boone, because all she had to do was go over to the suitcase and unzip him. As soon as he said, "Hey, I can't breathe. Okay, I'm ready to come out. Help me get out." Now, maybe he could have made his way out. She said he was sticking his hand out. But then I remember them saying in the beginning, years ago, that there wasn't enough room for his hand or fingers to come out of there. So now that's contradictory information. She's saying his arm got out. She beat it with the bat to put it back in. And the medical examiner did see injuries on his persons, which would lead you to believe that he was either beat up before, after, whatever, in the suitcase or while being in the suitcase. You're entitled to your opinion. This is a crazy, crazy story. And sadly, there will be another one, as the one I just brought to you, coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee, where a female has been indicted on murdering her boyfriend because she believed he was gay and had been lying to her. She shot him in the head on the 911 call. My best advice to people is, you better know the company that you're in. Don't take anything for granted. Just because a person is smiling with you and playing jokes and games and puzzles, it doesn't mean that deep down inside they're seething on something that you've done or something that you have said. Because people, as I said, people turn on people every day, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in that moment there was violence. And as you hear, allegedly there was no violence at that time when he crawled into the suitcase, because I was wondering, had they argued? Had he said something snide to her? See, we don't know. She doesn't have to tell you everything. Because once she had to have a defense down the road. So she knows not to have told everything. For all we know, they could have had words before he even got in the suitcase. Because naturally, when people drink, your sober mind speaks. And for all we know, he could have been quipping at her. She could have been quipping at him. Suitcase out. Don't know if it was already out, why it was out. Some people believe it was, maybe upstairs and she put him in it. He jumped in it. However, she pushed it down the stairs. I don't know. They say the neighbors heard a thud. I don't really know. But I know she was shushing him when he was in there wanting out. And that was because she didn't want him hollering and screaming to where maybe somebody could hear through the walls, somebody, asking, hey, let me out, the best. Because you can hear him speaking quite clearly on the audio feed of her phone. Sarah, Sarah. You can hear it clear. And that suitcase is really only a few feet from the front door. If you know the layout of her house, because they showed it coming in the house where that mirror sits, that's only, not that far away from where the suitcase is at. So it's only a few feet, several feet from the front door near the kitchen area. Because when you walk in the front door, you go through the kitchen and then into the living area. She didn't want anyone to hear. She didn't want anyone to hear him asking, let me out. So let's ask that question before I check out of here. Was the suitcase originally upstairs? Did she push it down the stairs? Because I refuse to believe he would have been asleep or out if it went down the stairs. I would assume he would be woke. The fact that she was standing it upright at some point, pushing it over, twirling it around upright, is that allegation true? Then someone asked why sit it upright. I don't know. You have to ask Sarah Boone that. And why didn't she tape him threatening her? Because that would have been possibly helpful to her. But I don't know how helpful. Because that was her theory. His arm was trying to get out. I'm hitting him with the bat so he could stay in. I'm fearing for my safety. As I said before, she had to have known he would be angry that she's not letting him out. And I can't even imagine what he was thinking while in there and asking her to open the suitcase. Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. How long did he call her name until he stopped? I can't even imagine. I don't want to imagine. Sarah, Sarah, I can't breathe. Sarah, let me out. Sarah, let me out. And he probably wasn't there cussing. But anybody knows the same thing to do is not to curse because you want out of there. So you don't want to do anything to prevent that person from opening and zipping that suitcase. But as you see, she never unzipped it. So we don't really know what he said in the suitcase. If he cursed her out, if he threatened her. I personally would have threatened her in the suitcase. I would have just begged and pleaded, please let me out. I want to talk. We can talk about it. I promise I won't go off. I won't get angry. I won't act out. I would even apologize. Anything I've ever done to you, I apologize. I'm sorry I've mistreated you. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I have brutalized you, beat you up, put you in the hospital. I apologize. Please forgive me. That's what a sane person would do while being in a suitcase. And for all we know, he could have said those things to her. I'm sorry, I apologize. Please forgive me. See, everything's on her version. We don't know because he's not here to tell us how this came to be that one, he even got in the suitcase. Upstairs, downstairs, what she did to him while in the suitcase, if she was hitting him with a bat or something while he was in it. Don't know. Was he brutalized before getting in the suitcase? Some people believe maybe he was out drunk, passed out. But I would think if you start being beat up and hit, you're going to wake up, whether you're in the suitcase or outside of the suitcase. It is a tragedy because both of these people could have been leading productive lives, but they chose each other and they chose this horrific path to go on together when they both should have been disbanded, but they did not. And she has to now live with that decision and, well, he's deceased. December 2nd, Sarah Boone will get her sentencing. What will the judge, how much time will the judge give her? Will he favor her? Or will he give her the maximum by Florida law? Will it be 22 to life? 16 to life? what will her sentence be? And will she speak and finally show remorse for the death of Jorge Torres? Once again, Leilani Simon has been found guilty on all 19 counts in the murder of her 20-month-old son, Quentin Simon. God is good, and justice finally came home. Amen. The Menendez brothers will have a chance at freedom. We will see if a judge decides to free these brothers on parole. I'll bring you an update to that information. And if you're curious to any of my content on Garth Brooks and Sean Puffy Combs, those videos are in the YouTube queue, and I also have shorts on the said commentary. You can also follow me on the Newsbreak app, where I also give commentary under the same name, the Vault XL. And I haven't uploaded in about 2 weeks or so I need to put some content up. But feel free to follow me over there, put in your location, and you'll get updates to breaking news in your general area. And you also get a notification when I comment on a said video or article and when I post. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $DeGanji129 Cash App. You all have a wonderful weekend. Sit back, relax. I thoroughly enjoyed myself yesterday. I was out and about, kind of tired, but wanted to get out because the day was so pretty. And I hung out briefly on the University of Tennessee campus, trying to get me some vittles. I eventually ate Mexican last night, and I wasn't really pleased at the place that I ate. But anywho, the margarita frozen was probably the best part of the meal. But yes, the queen enjoyed herself out yesterday. I had went live briefly, but that video was choppy, so I deleted that content and went live when I got home. Once again, Sarah Boone found guilty, second-degree murder. Leilani Simon guilty on all 19 counts in the murder of her son, Quentin Simon. Also, I read commentary from her mother, Billie Joe. She gave a statement to the news saying she wished she was there. Sorry she couldn't be there, but she didn't. She does not stand by what was done. But as I said in that commentary last night, that's a fake statement because she had custody of Quentin and one of the other children, and she neglected those children just like her daughter. And basically, the children were neglected on her watch, and a child died on her watch. So her acting as if she feels sorry that the child is dead and wants his remains to have a funeral and all that, that doesn't mean anything because you had custody of the children, Billie Joe Howe, and you should have been standing up there with your daughter because you are evilly yoked in the murder of that baby boy. And everybody stood idly by, knowing that he and those children were abused and were not being taken care of, and that they were in the care of drug addicts and alcoholics. So as I said before, if a mother can kill one, she can kill two more. Why not? And Billie Joe, you do not get a pass. Because for some reason, you got custody of those kids. Why? I do not know. Because it makes no sense to get custody of kids and then leave them with the abusive parent, and then you go run off into the night with your husband, staying away working. So you got custody of them for some reason. That's probably because DHS was involved or somebody was threatening something pertaining to Leilani and her parenting. Oh, I could put money on it. It's either that or it's something financial. And as you see how they were living, all they cared about were trucks and campers. The house was a mess. Pool nasty, no flower beds outside the home, shrubs all dried up. They didn't care anything about that house. It's just an empty shell, just a barn for animals to graze. And now the party is over. Nothing is left. And that's the latest. Thank you for following this network. You all have a wonderful weekend. Please check out my community board where I have polls put up for you to take, updates. And if I don't cover a story, I post an update to my community page. Please check out my segment, Your Crazy America, where I take you to Queens, New York, and give you the rundown on the inhabitants who are complaining that they are being ostracized for being street workers and vendors and exacting illegal activity on Roosevelt Avenue. They feel like they're being biased. The city is being racist in targeting them and exacting rates on the prostitutes and the street vendors. And the street vendors allegedly are selling hot goods. Don't know if all of them are selling stolen merchandise, but the point is, they're telling the city they don't like what they're doing and that they are racist. How about that? Please check out that video. I think you'll enjoy it. Once again, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. You've been listening to the Vault XL.